happy Wednesday to everybody. How's everybody doing today? Oh, we got a good one today. We got a good one today. I go away for one day, and all of a sudden, Tua gets benched. So that is part of the show today. We got to get into that. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers actually looking like a consistent football team for a change. So we got that on the slate too, and some other NFL news. How is everybody doing this evening? Good. This has been a pretty quiet day for myself. Uh, got a chance to kind of sit back and relax a little bit and working on some other things. So uh, quiet, but somewhat productive. So as we do, if you're in the building, make sure you guys like, subscribe, share the page. This is our time, 7 p.m. Like I say, we working to get this to be an everyday show. If you guys like what you're hearing, don't hesitate to hit the like button. Leave a comment. Any questions you guys got about football or whatever the case may be, always leave it in the chat. We'll definitely touch on it. So we gotta talk about Mr. Tua. I put out a short today about the situation, and let's be honest, this was something that has been down the pipeline for a while now. You guys, check the channel. I did a video about Tua a while ago. Um, I talked about Tua last year when they paid him in Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence credit, my man looked good Sunday. 6 total touchdowns, 5 passing touchdowns. But what's evident is that these quarterbacks, when you're somebody like Tua, who got 4 years, $212 million, you got to deliver. And he just hasn't delivered. You know what I mean? Simple as that. He has not been the guy that the Miami Dolphins paid for. Uh, I was already hesitant, and like I wasn't big on Tua even when he came out of school. But once he started getting all those concussions and all that stuff, anyway, I was already hesitant on paying him that type of money because the school, when he's on that rookie contract or you got him on a franchise tag, but when you got to make that commitment, that's a whole totally different story. And that's definitely a situation um, that the Dolphins got themselves in. And as it looks, Mike McDaniel's at this point now, he's trying to save his job. So, it's a situation where he got to cut bait. So now we have Quinn Ewers that is starting. And a lot of people was high on Quinn Ewers. I thought Quinn Ewers was actually going to be pretty good. He originally was recruited by Ohio State and won Ohio State. Of course, he couldn't get on the field at Ohio State. So, he went over to Texas. And yeah, he kind of didn't live up to the hype in Texas or whatever the case may be. But he played good enough football to get them to dance in the college football playoffs. So he played decently well. You know what I mean? He just didn't live up to the hype that they put on his name. And of course, he slid down the draft boards. He was looked at as a first round pick for sure. And he slid down the boards, but I think the perfect fit was with a Mike McDaniel. And I had him or Shador going to Miami at that time when the draft hit because I thought they were perfect fits for that system. And, Quinn is a big guy. He's a big guy. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He's mobile, so you ain't got to worry about balls getting batted down and those type of things. And if he can be developed into that guy, you got what, 3 more games? To let him play. I think it was the perfect time to pull Tua. I think it was the perfect time to pull Tua. Now, I talked about this earlier today when I put out the short, just to give you guys the numbers on Tua's cap hit. So, you know, hold your seats for this one. His dead money hits if Tua is moved in the offseason. If he's cut pre-June 1st, he will have a $99.2 million draft cap hit. Dead money. Cut post June 1st is $67.4 million in dead money. And if he gets traded, they're still on the hook. The Dolphins, that is still on the hook for $45 million. And he's already had $54 million of his salary guaranteed. And see, this is the conversation that needs to be had here. Just because your quarterback can put up decent numbers doesn't mean that he's a franchise guy. And I think this is going to be a thing that goes forward. A lot of these guys are not franchise guys that you can really, really build a team around. And if, the situation isn't perfect, they could make something out of nothing. AKA Lamar Jackson. Well, I'm not even going to say Lamar Jackson because he's been kind of disappointing this year. But I'm going to say Josh Allen for sure. We see the weapons that Josh Allen has in Buffalo. There's no number one. James Cook is coming into his own. He has been a vital part of that offense. But when you got who's on that team? Mac Hollins. Who else? Kenyon Coleman has not been the guy that everybody's looking for him to be. Shakir is a nice receiver, but he's not a number one. You got Dalton Kincaid, but they are more of a band of misfits more than really starting number one all-pro type of receivers. And Josh Allen just goes out every week and he does his thing. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. He's carried this Chiefs team the last 2 years. The weapons have been at best. They're not a good team. But he's carried them. He's put them in a playoff race, carried them to a Super Bowl, and they made it work with what they had. So that's two top-tier quarterbacks. Maybe Lamar Jackson, even before they started to get weapons for Lamar was kind of carrying the team. Now, Joe Burrow has had weapons, but I do believe if Joe went anywhere else, as long as they got balance to the offense, he would be able to carry an offense with lesser weapons. So that's maybe 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. To me, Tua was along the lines of Jalen Hurts. Now, has Jalen Hurts won the big games? Yes. Has he shown up when it's mattered? Yes, he has. But he has limitations to his game. And I thought that with Tua then. And then when you add on the concussions and everything else, he was not a franchise quarterback. And I think these owners and these GMs got pressured into signing these guys because they said, hey, if we don't sign these guys, we're not going to find nobody else. And then we're going to be in purgatory. Well, you signed Tua to a contract extension. How does it look? Now you're on the hook for all this money, and you're not going to be able to bring another starting caliber quarterback in. Even if you trade Tua tomorrow, you're still on the hook for almost $50 million in dead cap. So how are you going to pay him and pay newer, say, at quarterback? That's a situation that NFL teams are going through at this point now because everybody ran to overpay their quarterback. Is your quarterback worth $50 million a year? Is it worth 55? Is it worth 60? I mean, you even look at Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott he's had a great year for all intents and purposes, numbers wise. But Dallas only has 1% chance of making the playoffs. So more than likely, they're not going to make it. But yet, Dak is being paid $60 million. Do I like Dak? I am actually a fan of Dak Prescott, but he's not a quarterback that can move mountains. And if I am the owner group going into next CBA, we're going to have to tier off these quarterbacks, put them in tiers because a Josh Allen is worth $60 million. A Patrick Mahomes is worth $60 million. Maybe a Joe Burrow, maybe a Lamar Jackson, maybe. But who else is worth that type of money? And now Miami's stuck in a situation where they're going to have to draft their next guy. Maybe put him in right away. Maybe Quinn Ewers is the guy. You hope you get something that shows real potential with Quinn, and you could take that pick or wherever they get picked at. Maybe you could package it up and move some things around. Now they're talking about trading Jalen Waddle. So now if you're talking about trading Waddle, you're into a full reset because you just paid him an exorbitant amount of money. See, when you start paying these guys like that, you're paying them to go win games, not to not make playoffs and things of that nature. So uh, they're in a situation, and we're gonna pull up Mr. Tyreek Hill, who showed his response to Tua being benched. So we definitely got to pull that up here. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Let's listen to the Ross Tucker podcast because he had Andrew Brandt on. Let's take a look to this. This is something that's worth listening to too. Share screen. We getting good at this. We getting good at this. All right. Okay, so let's listen to Andrew Brandt here.
They're paying him with an offset, I guess, if they cut him and he goes somewhere else, but they're not cutting him. And this is why they're not cutting him. Because cap wise, it's cheaper to keep him. You can't take $99 million of dead money. Now, listen, I get it. You're saying to me, Andrew, you said that about Russell Wilson. Absolutely, I did. And 4 years ago, I said that about Carson Wentz with $34 million of dead money. But I just don't see 99. $99.2 million in dead money if they cut him. Now, that's before June 1. Now, if they go into this cockamamie situation where they cut him after June 1 and somehow he's hanging around somewhere between now and June 1, they're still getting 67.2 on their cap in 2026. Right? 67.2 million, which again would be the highest cap number, let alone the Dolphins, the league. And 31.8 million in 2027. Yes, this is a mess. This is a mess. We got a long way to see what they're going to do. My best guess at this time, and just a guesstimate as we sit here on December 17th, 2025, he'll be there and take a pay cut. Why would he take a pay cut? Well, he and Athletes First would survey the market and say, we're not going to make $54 million. But maybe we could make $30 million. I don't know. But what the Athletes First has is the full guarantee if he's cut. So they can dare the Miami Dolphins to cut him and take $99 million in cap expense or $67 million in 1 year and $31 million the next year. Tua's in great shape. Like Tua, what are they going to do? They're going to cut him and
So if you guys want to listen to the rest of that, Ross Tucker's podcast show, really good show. Um, that was Andrew Brandt. And you guys see the situation right there. Now, if I am a GM and I saw the Russell Wilson situation, I saw the Tua situation, I saw the Deshaun Watson situation in Cleveland, I'm not running to pay a quarterback. You better know that you have the guy and that he's going to be your guy and that he's not schemed up to be great. That he's great when adversity shows, when he has to adapt, when he has to make moves on the fly. He's that type of guy. If he's not Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or any of those guys that I listed earlier, please do not give your quarterback $50 million. You just heard Andrew Brandt say, guess who's the winner in that situation? Tua. Because he already has so much guaranteed money. He don't mind going to sit on the bench. You have to pay him anyway. You got to pay him a lot of money. So Andrew Brandt, who was with the Green Bay Packers, GM, all of that stuff. Well, he wasn't a GM, but he was like a president or something like that. He understands the money and the finances. And if you're hearing that as an owner and your quarterback is coming up for a contract extension and you're not sure about him, you think that he's just good enough based on the parts and pieces that you put around him, you better franchise tag him. And I think an even more radical ideal is if you really, really in your hearts of heart don't believe in this guy, you may need to trade him because if another team is interested in him and they feel like he can be that guy somewhere else, then you got to do it. Now, when you look at the situation in the context of the Minnesota Vikings, they got Sam Darnold. They recreated Sam Darnold, turned him into a monster in Minnesota. And me personally, that was a situation where you should have kept Sam Darnold because Sam Darnold only wanted 35 million or 37 million. Whatever he got in Seattle was around what he was supposed to get as a Minnesota Viking, but they didn't want to agree to the years. So they let him go. Now that's the situation I felt they should have kept Sam Darnold over JJ McCarthy. Now we'll see how JJ McCarthy develops. It's been a rough go for him these first year and a half. Some games he looked really good. Some games he looked awful. But maybe they feel like they got their guy. But when you look at that situation, Minnesota made that move because they felt like he's a product of the scheme. So if the scheme falls apart, they probably felt like Sam Darnold wasn't of value. Now, did they miss on it? So far, it looks like they did. But I would go about evaluating my quarterback the same way Minnesota did. Whether, to me, they got it wrong. But I would do that too. Even when you look at, the Tua situation, Tua hadn't got them to an AFC championship game. He didn't do anything that made the Miami Dolphins stand out. It was the pieces and parts around him. You had the Jonnu Smiths, you had the Mike Gesicki's down there, you had Tyreek Hill, who had just came from winning the Super Bowl with the Chiefs when they traded for him. Then you drafted Jalen Waddle. Then you had Raheem Mostert down there. Now you got Arcane running. He had a lot of weapons down there. And then you had who they look at as an offensive prodigy in Mike McDaniel. So everything was schemed up for Tua. And I can understand Mike McDaniel at that point in time having an affinity for Tua. You could go look at all the old interviews. He was in Tua's corner. He was. No doubt about it. But if I was the GM of the Miami Dolphins at that time, Chris Greer, I would not have paid. I wouldn't have paid Tua. Just off the concussions alone, I wouldn't have paid him. But his game just does not translate into being a getting paid franchise type of money. That was never his game. His game was predicated on the scheme and what he had around him. And that was a fireable offense, in my opinion, anyway. That was a fireable offense. And I could see it from the other side, ownership saying, hey, we got a guy, and we haven't had a guy in a while. We got to make sure we pay him, even if we overpay him. I just don't think that was a good idea. I don't think that was something that you could go look at and you could go say, hey, this guy is going to take us to beat Patrick Mahomes in an AFC championship. Do you believe a Tua can beat a Josh Allen in a playoff game, a Joe Burrow in a playoff game, if they can ever get to the playoffs? Lamar Jackson, I never saw it. I never saw it. So now they're in a situation. We'll see what happens next. Like they still have to figure out who is going to be their full time GM going forward. Hell, does Mike McDaniel even keep his job? Does Mike McDaniel keep his job going into 2026? Because that team looked lifeless for the longest, and it kind of came back to life these last 4 or 5 games, and they played hard. But when you spend all that type of money in that Dolphins organization, and there's nothing to show for it, what's the point? What's the point? So, I think going forward, I think all these NFL teams at this point now, you're going to have to figure out, is this really a franchise guy or is he really good in your system? Because when you don't get that quarterback position right, you have now hamstrung your team for probably another 3 or 4 years. They better hope they hit on Quinn Ewers or whoever they draft. Maybe they draft somebody where you have the highest paid backup in football next to Kirk Cousins and Deshaun Watson. But they have to hit on these guys. They don't hit on them. If you're a Dolphins fan, I feel for you. I ain't never seen a Dolphin drown, but this might be the first time. So we'll keep monitoring that situation. But I don't even think I showed you guys the Tyreek Hill post. Let's let me show it. Let's see. All right, here go the Tyreek Hill post. Let's pull that up real quick. My man said peace. So he's saying even he had an ACL injury, but he's saying that he won't be back at Miami next year. So at least that's what it seems from the post. Now you can be cryptic, and Tyree Hill can come out and say that ain't even what I said. Well, the post say what it say, man. The post say what it say. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with the old Miami Dolphins here. But next person we got to talk about Travis Kelsey. And I think I talked about Travis Kelsey when I talked about the Chiefs the other day about how he wants to show up. Um, he wants to show up when everything is going well, but then when it's not going well, he wants to disappear on the media and then go on his podcast to talk about what's going on with him. And I saw, and I don't know if I could put this up, so I'm not going to put it up. I'm gonna see if you guys can maybe hear it. Let me see here. Well, I'll just say it in a nutshell. I'm not really a first take guy like that, but I'm glad someone called him out, and it was Chris Mad Dog Russo. And basically, in a nutshell, he said no one cares about your podcast. If when everything's going good, you want to be all in front of the camera, all in the videos, all in front of everything when everything's going good. But as soon as you lose, you can't show up. I'm gonna say this as somebody who really liked Travis Kelsey's game. I do not like his attitude. You are a 35, 36-year-old man. You are supposed to be a leader for that team because when it's time to have all the accolades, you're good with it. You want to do all the State Farm commercials with Patrick Mahomes and everything else. You want to be all in front of the camera. But when you go through adversity, you show who you are, man. And that's not a good look. And you've come on that podcast before and you've apologized for it. And you did it again. And I'm glad someone else in the media is calling you out about it. I'm just a little guy. No one knows me yet. You know, and that's just not how you do things. You're supposed to be the guy. You won 3 Super Bowls. You won. You've seen your day in the sun. You've done a lot of things that NFL players dream of doing. I mean, in sports, period. Not only to win one championship, but you won 3. And you've been a focal point of the offense. You know what I mean? You've been a focal point of the offense for years. And once you slow down and can't be the guy you need to be, you go from dancing in the end zone and being all over the place with Taylor Swift to now you don't want to show your face until you get on the podcast. I'm just gonna let you know that's a weak move. That's just my thoughts. Who is this? This is Happy Evelyn. Hey, welcome to the chat. Appreciate you dropping in. You said the Dolphins are dumb enough to think a Chris Greer's 7th round pick will make an NFL starting quarterback. Well, I'm gonna say this. Listen, you got to remember Trey Lance was drafted in the first round. I think he was the number 2 pick for the 49ers. And remember, the 49ers traded a lot of picks for Trey Lance. Um, John Lynch would have been fired had Brock Purdy not panned out as the 7th round pick. So while I get what you're saying, because I mean, obviously, listen, you're a Dolphins fan. I get it totally, but you better hope Quinn Ewers hit because that 1st round pick becomes more valuable when you have a quarterback that's making $50 million a year having to go sit on the bench. So you need that pick to hit. That pick don't hit. Dolphins get set back 4 or 5 years. So they're in a situation where they have to figure out if Quinn Ewers is something because Quinn Ewers was supposed to be a higher pick. I think just whether you believe he was a 1st round pick, a 3rd round pick, I thought he made it drop to about a 4th round pick, but him dropping to a 7th was crazy. Uh, we'll see. We'll see. Get his first start Sunday, so we'll see what he is. But we definitely know Tua ain't it. So you know. But I appreciate the comment though. Appreciate the comment. But yeah, back to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're in a situation where they got to rebuild, and Travis Kelsey has had a great career, but it's time for him to go home. When you don't want to take accountability no more, and smelt the flowers too much, and you don't want to come out because you lost the game, it's time for you to go home. You put yourself above the team. Now you're going on podcast. I don't care if it's your podcast or anybody else's podcast. Your job is to go address the media, win, lose, or draw. I can accept it happening once, maybe twice in your career, but not in a whole year when it does not go the way you want it to go. Then you're out of here. We'll be out of here for real. Go ahead and just hit it for real. If I'm the Chiefs, I'm Andy Reid. He don't want to show up. You ain't even got to play the rest of the year. Now he may not want to because he ain't playing for nothing. But go ahead and send him out the pasture. He can hit it. They ain't gonna hold you. You out of there. Now, let's get to the next thing. We got to talk about Joe Burrow. We got to talk about Joe Burrow. I said I wasn't even gonna do a video on this. I said I wanted to bring this straight to the live. We gonna go watch this video of Joe Burrow because I have not seen the video, so we're actually watching this video together. But from the comments and what I was hearing, we just gonna go watch it. That's what we gonna do. We'll go watch it and then we'll talk about it. And this video is from Adam Schefter. Let's let's put it up. Get me out the way. Let's watch Joe Burrow talk a little bit.
Your mind where you're not the quarterback of the Bengals next year.
I can't see that. No.
Have you ever thought about the possibility of not being the quarterback here during your career, or
You think about a lot of things.
when you look at quarterbacks over the course of their time, great ones, Peyton, Brady, you kind of have to understand that you never know what this league will bring. And what did you learn from watching how their careers unfolded?
Yeah, a lot of crazy things happen every year. Micah Parsons got traded right before the season. I think this year. That is something I hadn't seen in a long time in the NFL. So crazy things can happen.
In your mind, where you're not the quarterback of the Bengals next year.
I can't see.
Listen. I wish I had my stream deck right now. It's about that time. This was a conversation. I hate to keep saying I told you so, but I did a video on this some months ago. And it goes into the same conversation that we just had about Tua. But it's not exactly the same. This part of the conversation is I believe Joe Burrow is elite. Like Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, those guys. I think he's in that tier of quarterback, right? But Joe is making about almost $60 million a year. Jamar Chase is making about $40 million a year. T. Higgins is making about 33, I guess, a year. So just in your quarterback and your two wide receivers, you have what's that? 60, 100, about 133 million a year tied up in just those three guys. Now remember, you have to fill out a roster. You have a roster to fill out. And we see what that defense looks like. Now, we had never seen a situation, we don't see a situation too often where you have your quarterback, as good as Joe Burrow is, you have Jamar Chase, who is arguably the best receiver in football. If he's not the best, he's in the top three. And you have T. Higgins, who's a top 10 receiver, and it'll be a number one receiver on any other team, any other organization. He would be the number one guy. And Joe wanted them to pay him. He wanted the ownership, who is known for not paying their guys, because they haven't paid Trey Hendrickson either. But they made the accommodation to pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Well, what happened? The Bengals are 4-11. I think they're 4-11, right? 4-11, and no playoffs. They started off slow last year, got going, just missed the playoffs. The year before that, a slow start, ramp it up, try to catch up, just missed the playoffs. So the Bengals have not been in the playoffs in 3 years, right? 3 years. Now, a lot of it has to do with Joe Burrow's health. Joe Burrow was injured, I think, 2 of these 3 years. Might have been injured. I think it was 2 of the 3 years he was injured. So now you're in a situation where if your quarterback gets hurt, there's no balance on the team. The defense has been hot garbage. They thought getting rid of Lou Amaruno was the decision to make. He went to the Colts. We see that defense because it's got pieces. It's got things to work with over there. So that defense has looked good. They bring in Al Golden from Notre Dame because they felt like, hey, he can come in and he can be the missing piece, the voice to help that defense lift up to be able to just slow down offenses because you had Joe Burrow. Well, in this 2025 season, you got a hurt Joe Burrow who was out for a while with a wicked turf toe injury. He was out for a while. You got Joe Flacco. You traded for Joe Flacco to come in. Joe did well for a minute, but the defense was bad, so they was losing games. In comes Joe Burrow. He looks okay, but then he's having, he had kind of a backslide. Couple pick sixes, cost him games. So in a nutshell, what's being said here is if that offense is not perfect, because they don't even have a running game. Outside of the game that Chase Brown had against the Steelers, they don't have a running game. So they don't have a running game. You got to lean completely on the offense on the air attack. And if the air attack ain't working, they're cooked. The Bengals are cooked. And their defense has just got more holes in it than Swiss cheese. Shamar Stewart has not been a staple point for that defense. He has come in and he's been relatively quiet. But it's not like he had a whole bunch of starts where he was at Texas A&M. He looks the part, but can he be the part? That may take some time. Then Trey Hendrickson, you got his situation. They fought and held out, and contract negotiations was what they were. And then by the time he got back on the field, he was hurt. At least that's what they say. So he didn't get paid. So you got a defense down, a defensive player of the year candidate, and Trey Hendrickson. So you're not getting a pass rush. Then your back end suspect. You know, that is a means for disaster. Now they're trying to sit Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow does not want to sit. Joe Burrow wants to play. If I'm the organization too, I don't really want Joe Burrow playing. But at the same time, if I'm Joe Burrow and I've missed all this time, I just want to touch the football and get out there and get some type of rhythm because he has not been in a rhythm. Every time he starts to get going, he gets injured. So I can see it from both sides of the coin. And to what I say after that is if they can't have a meaningful draft, this upcoming draft, this 2026 draft, this is my reasonings on it because they're not going to fire Zach Taylor, according to James Rapine, um, big time beat reporter for him, I think for Sports Illustrated, if I'm not mistaken. He said they're not going to fire Zach Taylor and they're not going to fire Duke Tobin, the GM, because he's like family to the Brown family. So they're not firing none of these guys. And I told you, by the way, this is a very frugal organization. So you're going to be there until your contract's up. If I'm Joe Burrow in this situation now, or I'm the Bengals, I think at some point, and I'm not going to jump out the building yet and say somebody should ask for a trade or he should be traded, but I'm starting to lean that way. And I think that's what he's saying at this point, too. Like, he doesn't mind if a trade happens, in my opinion. I think that's where he's at. Now, would the Bengals get a haul for Joe Burrow? Oh, my goodness. What did Deshaun Watson get? Let's go look and see what Deshaun Watson got. Let's go check that out. Deshaun Watson trade package to Browns. So let me pull this up for everybody can see this. Do you see this? Cleveland gave up first round pick, one, two, three first round picks, a third, and two fourths. Let me repeat that again. They gave up three first round picks. Let's look at this. Three first round picks, a third round pick, and two fourths for Deshaun Watson. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals GM, let me know in the chat. Would you trade Joe Burrow? If you're in a situation right now where you got T. Higgins, you got Jamar Chase, you got Gesicki, you got the weapons. Now, hear me out. This is crazy. Hear me out. If you're the GM and you traded Joe Burrow for what we just showed for Deshaun Watson, and let's just say you can get a competent quarterback in. Competent. We ain't saying he got to be nothing great. Let's just say, I don't know, maybe you bring Joe Flacco back for another year. I don't know. Joe Flacco, whoever the quarterback is that you feel like could be efficient because he got all these weapons. Then we go draft the running back. Let's just go say because we got all this money tied up. We go draft the Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. And we added Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame or Brees Hall with those weapons. Now, this is if I was to trade Joe Burrow. Now, remember, we are in a situation where we are what? 4-11? Let's see what the Bengals record is. Let's get this pulled up here real quick. Bengals record. So the Bengals are 4-10. Let's see where they puts them draft wise. Draft spot. Right now, that would put the Bengals in the 9th spot. Now, you think about this too. If you more than likely Joe Burrow's not going anywhere. This is just hypothetical talk. Now, you can still go draft a Jeremiah Love at the 9th pick. Now, I know people are going to, the analytics people are going to say, oh, you can always draft the running back and all this other stuff. I get the analytics. I'm good with the analytics too, but I'm about the eye test too. Jeremiah Love is a game changer. He gets the ball out the backfield. We see all the athletic, freakish stuff that he could do when a ball is in his hands. He's just really that good of an athlete and that good of a running back, in my opinion, that on that Cincinnati Bengals team, you add him as a piece, they will be off and running with Joe Burrow because they'll be able to control the clock and give that defense a chance to, I don't know, make a play here and there, maybe. Let's just with Joe Burrow. But even without Joe Burrow, you got a top 10 pick. And let's say, Joe Burrow is available. Let's just say Duke Tobin makes him available. Well, what are the quarterback needy teams that will take on a Joe Burrow that would elevate them to the next level? We think of a la Matt Stafford when Jared Goff and him got traded for each other because they felt like Jared Goff couldn't get to the next level. And that was a decent haul with the quarterback swap itself. But if I could turn around and I could go get Joe Burrow and I could give up a haul for Joe Burrow, what team would be the team that you think would do it and why? I guess that's a good question. So make sure you guys leave that in the comments because I'm interested to hear what people think about that. Because the way Joe Burrow was talking, he's talking as if it may be some type of trade in the works. Or he wouldn't mind going somewhere else. Here's one. We get another Cincinnati to Arizona deal. First, it was Carson Palmer who went out to the desert. Would Joe Burrow go out to the desert? You got Marvin Harrison out there. You got what's the tight end out there? Trey. Why I can't think of names right now. Let's see. I know y'all like, hey, he out here playing Madden. All right, Trey McBride. So you got Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride. What's the other receiver out there? But they got a decent repertoire out there. I mean, we just saw Jacoby Brissett throw for almost like 500 yards. So, like, 60 passes out there. So they got a decent weaponry out there. Then what if you figure out a way to flip maybe Kyler Murray to Cincinnati? And then he can go play with those weapons. And maybe instead of sending 3 first-round picks, you send 2 in Kyler Murray's contract for Joe Burrow's contract. That could be interesting. And that's just one scenario. Like I said, I know it sounds like we playing NFL Madden right now. But if Joe Burrow's talking like this and he's showing frustration and he doesn't feel like the situation is changing, we saw how adamant he was about the Trey Hendrickson situation and them and the Bengals getting him signed. He talked very openly about that situation. He talked about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins getting paid. So he already, to me, kind of feels a way about the organization, but he's going to be a company man. But I think the Bengals are at a crossroads, and this is the situation right here. When you look at these teams, and this seems like this has been the theme of this show tonight. When you're paying these guys the type of money that you're paying them, if they're not producing in those first 2 years, or whatever the case may be, because when I pay a quarterback $60 million, $55 or $50 million, that means that you're the man. And that means that you are the guy that can take this team to the next level. We're always thinking Super Bowl if I'm paying you that type of money. But AFC, NFC championships, deep playoff runs, whatever. If you get knocked off by the better team, that's fine. I get it. That's just part of the game. But when we're not making the playoffs, now we're about to have a whole nother discussion. And as much as I like Joe Burrow a lot. He is one of my favorite quarterbacks. But you're still 3 years in, regardless of the injuries or whatever, just bad luck, period. I get it totally. But you're still not winning and you're still getting paid. Everybody on the team is still getting paid, and they're getting paid a lot of money, and you're getting paid a lot of money to not fill those seats for playoff times. For the owners can then make some extra money back. See, that's the business part you bring in. So you got to kind of look at that situation and say, hey, I know Joe's really good, damn near great, but whether it's a black cat running across Cincinnati Stadium or what, either he can't stay healthy or just something goes wrong. So at this point now, do they make a clean break? Y'all let me know, because I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know if is Joe Burrow tradable in your eyes. Now, again, like I said, will GM Duke Tobin look at that? Are they even thinking about trading Joe Burrow? Maybe. We'll see. We will see. But let's see if we got anything else on the slate that we want to talk about. There's always something going on. Maybe I'll hold some stuff for tomorrow. Um, There's always something going on. But hey, we about did an hour. I appreciate you guys coming to hang out. Even if you was lurking, I appreciate you coming check it out, see what's going on. Like, who is this big dude talking football? I'm D. This is D Knows. Uh, I love football. This is my passion. And, I'm a student of the game. Play a little high school ball, nothing crazy. Had a couple offers here and there, high school or whatever. So, just as much as I thought I might have played, I love talking it too. Had the aspirations of, maybe, at one point being a GM and all that other stuff. So getting to talking is just as cool, being a part of it. Um, we're going to be bringing people on to talk real soon here. Let me know who you guys will be interested in me bringing on. Of course, we got 32 teams, so we can bring on reporters from everywhere. Come talk some football. Even if they just videos, they'll be uploaded. If you guys have questions before the reporter come on, you can always leave them in the comment box. And if they're good, I'm going to put them up. And then, whoever comes on, they'll answer, or whatever the case may be, because this is a community. You guys are a part of what I'm doing here. This isn't just an audience thing. You guys are really a part of the show. So we're going to continue to keep building this thing brick by brick. And that is about it. So I will be on tomorrow. We'll probably do another hour tomorrow. Like I said, there's always something going on in football. And, that's pretty much all I got. So, everybody have a good night. It's about dinner time for me. I don't know what everybody else is eating, but I got to figure out what I'm eating, what we eating, me and the wife, and that's all I got for you guys. So again, I appreciate you guys coming to tap in, hanging out for a minute. We gonna keep doing this. Like I said, we brick by brick. So, tell a friend to tell a friend. Share the live, share the videos, like, subscribe, share the whole bit. And we'll do this again tomorrow. So till the next one, peace.